Meeting, excuse me. Good morning, by the way. Meeting a true friend doesn't happen every day. And, it's it pulls on my reality extremely hard. Because I used to be full of anxiety. I had a friend that I met, and he held my hand all night long when I met him. And I cried and I cried and I cried. It was it had been a long time that I had been that way. It like I had been mistreated. I didn't want to retaliate. I wasn't developing friendships because of the anxiety, and amongst some people I wasn't standing up for myself, and but that also left me in a place of not being able to be in the present moment. And so I'm sitting here today reflecting 3 years ago, over 3 years ago. And if, we do the math, it's like 37, 38 months, 37 months, almost 38 months. And, that was the only time I saw this person. Now, we did talk and have contact, nearly most days. I didn't want him to know how broken that I was, but I'm starting to feel like that he knew that. And maybe that's obvious to some people, and I've seen a tremendous amount of healing happen. In the past year approximately. So, what's important to me is that I reflect on the fact that, for one, some of the things that I've been missing, like it's like part of my mind having been kept in a capsule until I was ready for it. And another part of me feeling as if that there's only certain parts of me that can be seen. And that's just not the case. Like I I would allow myself to say and like allow myself to be heard, here, on video, but not feel as if that I could be broken. Like what just happened a little bit ago really helped me see that, like kind of what I've been missing, what I haven't seen about myself. And so what I've been doing is on a website, I've been live streaming and just having like this, and like I've had this for years, like a really long time. And like there's an emotional value that, I've been under such extreme anxiety and pressure that I never allowed my emotions to be, like I never, I could not feel attached to anything ever, like ever, because so many things have just been ripped away from me. And, like sometimes people take things away from others so that they can understand attachment. But for me, it was something that I adapted to not feeling attached because I knew that nothing's permanent, is what I had, like my mind got used to not having a way to keep the present moment. And that overlapped into relationships, into getting things done, feeling accomplishment, just feeling absolutely devastated, in shock, catatonic for long periods of time. I mean, just like 14 years that. And so, like I went a little too deep with nothing's permanent. And I forgot that there is another reality where people, care about each other, that there's an underlying reality that, like I just never allowed myself to go, almost an imaginary reality that I never went because of this long-standing belief that don't feel anything because it's temporary. And that overlaps into things that I would purchase, like not putting an amount of real desire into, like some people may buy a favorite bra, but like I would buy, like just any bra, like just like, hey, I've got a couple bras on sale, like I never picked my clothes that way. I'd say, oh, this matches, or this is my size. But I wasn't like, dang, I look banging in, this, outfit. And, like I'm starting to, have some real, courage for to allow myself to feel some sort of attachment. It's just been such a long standing reality. I'm not like in love with my thing or anything, but the people that have been my family, the understanding just so tight that I, couldn't pick up on the fact that people made jokes and that there was, like a symbolic value, and it hurts. Like I'm older. I'm not old, but I'm older. And so anyway, today, to get to my story, that I was live streaming on a website, and I'm sitting here, like with this, like thinking about, like I've been by myself for a really long time. And I was thinking back to that day, my friend that, like he held my hand all night long and didn't say anything. And just I just I'm thinking back to that day and realizing the impact that it's having on me now, and realizing, like I didn't realize the amount of seclusion that I had been under for a long time. So in this chat, it's a live stream. So in this chat, somebody said, you know, what's its name? And, like, I was thinking, I was like, like, that's pretty deep for me to have something like this for such a long, long time. I mean, like, since I was a teenager, I've had this. I've watched it, like, and it just I realized that I it was never allowed. Like, it was just a very childish thing that I wasn't allowed to do because I'm an adult. And I think that, even as a child, maybe not like as a young child, I probably had an imagination, but at some place, like, it was no longer, allowed. I had to grow up really fast, and that's a whole nother story. But I had to grow up, and quickly because of the circumstances. But and then they said, "Is that your boyfriend?" And like, I just thought, like, people in love, they create these realities that only they understand and know, and maybe not never, but that maybe not never that other people don't know or know, but that they create these, realities that just really change everything in the way that you feel. And like, I didn't, like, I started crying, and I'm realizing like, what I'm thinking about is, this friend that I haven't heard from in years. I only met him the one time, but we did spend a lot of time talking. And so I was like, okay, I'm like, like, I'm like, this is my partner. And I just continue to remind myself that that's okay to do, that I'm allowed to have, like, people have pets, animals, and they love them. And, that I'm allowed. And see, I'm still fighting myself. I'm saying this is really silly. This is a stuffed animal. And then I'm going, I don't have anyone in my life that cares about me. Like, people care from afar, but it's like, how much does anybody care about somebody that they don't see or are married to? I mean, maybe more than I realize, but going back to the original case is just, like, I'm never was, I was never allowed to have an imagination that I grew up quickly as a child. And that, it's just, it's really emotional to think that, even in growing friendships, I never got to grow friendships because of these reasons. I never got to, it almost takes an imagination to know how other people feel. And I just felt like I just, my heart has been so closed because of not fear of attachment, but knowing that if I were to be attached, that it wasn't possible to be a full adult, and that's not true. You know, like, part of it being that, like, I haven't, felt close to anybody in a long time. And, knowing that, like, that is actually something that I can feel. And it's not that nobody cares, it's that, like, I had reversed my thinking of the imagination is childish and attachment is not permissible. Like, I, like, I could temporarily feel like I love this object. Like, that's not to say that just remembering, like, how closed I've been to a reality that feels like this. Like, it's been a long time since I had a partner. It's been a long time since I had people around me that care. And so, it's making me realize this friend that I haven't heard from in a long time. And, and basically him, coming and seeing me and saying, "Hey, you didn't get to see this before, and I want you to see it." And I miss him. I have another friend that I lost. It's been a little over a year ago, and I have to end the stream. I have a phone call. Hello.